Okay, so listen, y'all know that I love to be honest. I am very transparent. And in this season of my life, I literally like to go through these things. I'm not going to say that I like to because, the things that I go through, or the things that I have went through, they are not for the weak. Let me say that. But I do go through these things, and I like to share what God gives me in these situations. So here is another moment of honesty for me. So I was under this ministry where, even though, I was there, I felt like I had reached I had reached the peak. I had reached the peak of my spiritual learning and my spiritual journey with that ministry. So I had been praying and I had been fasting about where to go. What do I do? How do I continue, to get further in the word and further in God? And God ended up leading me to the ministry where I am now. And I knew that it was going to cause some tension and some friction. So I prayed about it and I fasted about it like, God, is this the right move? Me and my husband ended up going to the church, and he was there and he was in agreement. Yeah, this is definitely where, we need to be. So in that, we were just like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. So the happenings of this transition did bring about some tension, and it brought about some friction with the other ministry that I was under. But I kept getting this calm in my spirit, like everything is going to be okay. This is a God move. So, I didn't worry about the tension. I said, okay, things will iron themselves out, but right now I can't be focused on that, because it's like, I know that I have to get what God has for me. And while I'm under this ministry, I'm learning so much. I really am. And I encountered what I thought was spiritual warfare. I was going through this spiritual warfare. I was going through this battle, and I was praying and doing everything that, I thought that I needed to do. But what my apostle had told me, you're not in spiritual warfare, you're in demonic warfare, and there is a difference. So he had literally had to guide me through demonic warfare. Him and my chief apostle and my apostle literally had to guide me through the demonic warfare that I was under in the previous season of my walk with God. And it's like the things that I have learned here, the things that I have been taught, I can honestly say that had I still been under the ministry that I was under, I would not have learned how to fight through the warfare that I was encountering. I would not have known how to go through and press through and pray through and fast through and put the word on these situations that I was going through in my life. God was giving me visions. God was giving me dreams. God was giving me things, that I literally did not know how to deal with. He was showing me things, even pertaining to what was going on in my situation. And there were things that I had I not been under this ministry that I'm under now, I don't feel like I would have been able to make it through this season. I feel like there would have been I feel like I would have been ready to give up. I'll say it like that. I feel like I would have been ready to give up because I didn't know how to handle these certain things that God was showing me, that God was giving me. And so the ministry that I was under, that I am under again, they showed me how to deal with the demonic warfare that I was under. And I followed their instructions. I remember my apostle telling me to get before God and get a battle plan. She told me her battle plan, but she said, get before God and get you a battle plan that is going to work for you, for your situation. And I remember praying to God, and it didn't come right then. But I think a week into me praying about what to do, how to do this, how to go about this, God sent the battle plan, and I followed that battle plan. Sometimes I would, mix it up, add some more things or whatever, but I followed that battle plan. And I decreed and declared like my life depended on it, because it did depend on it. And in the end, I did see the victory in the situation that I was going through. In the situation that I was going through, I now can say that I have victory over this situation. And I also can say that in this season right here, I learned how to overcome spiritual and demonic warfare. Now, I already know that there are levels to this thing. So, but for the most part, I can say that I have learned what I needed to learn. And it is all because I followed the leading of God when God told me to. So the question that dropped in my spirit on yesterday, and it was so deep, it was so it was profound to me. How many times have we been loyal to people versus being loyal to God? How many times have we hindered our own spiritual growth? How many times have we hindered our own spiritual maturity being loyal to people instead of being loyal to God? You know that God is calling you to greater. You know that God is calling you to better. You know that God is calling you to change. You know that God is calling you to higher, to something deeper. But because you are moving in fear, because you are scared to disappoint the people that, you have been with and been around and been under for years, because you are operating in a fear that is not of God. Because the thing is, people don't own you. People don't control you. Your life, your everything, your walk, your purpose, your destiny, and everything belongs to God. People don't own you and people don't control you. So you should not fear people, because people have no heaven or hell to put you in. So why stay loyal to people and not be loyal to God? I can tell you, if I would have stayed loyal to people, I would have completely been defeated in the warfare that I was under. So it is important to stay loyal to God. It is important to stay faithful to God. It is important to keep your ear always tuned to the frequency of God, to the frequency of heaven, to what God is telling you, to what He is dropping in your spirit, to that knowing, to that unctioning, to that pushing and that pressing that God is putting in your spirit. Because the thing is, only you can walk your journey. Only you and God. God knows what He has for you. According to Jeremiah 29:11, only He knows the plans that He has for you. They are plans to prosper you, never to harm you, but to bring you to an expected end. Only God knows this. So everything that we go through, everything that we will encounter, God has already seen it. God has already, he already knows. He already has our plan. He already has the victory we already have the victory over these situations. But the thing is, we have to trust that God is going to get us through it. And if we are not listening to God, but we are listening to people instead, we will fail every single time. But God asked, and that is the question that I pose to you. How many times have you hindered your own spiritual growth? How many times have you hindered your own spiritual maturity? How many times have you, put aside the things that God has told you to do because you're listening to somebody else? Because you're operating in a fear, because you don't want to cause any friction or any tension, because you don't want anybody to be mad at you. How many times have you put off what God has told you to do? To be loyal to somebody else, to be loyal, to faithful to somebody else. How many times have you done it? How many times have you stunted your own growth? You know you should be further along. You know that God has better. But you're operating in a fear that does not even come from God. It was profound to me, but this is something that made me think. So, I pose this question to you guys. So, think about it. If you know in your heart of hearts that God is calling you to more, if God is calling you higher, if God is wanting something deeper out of you, if he is wanting you to get closer to him in a way that requires you to leave your family, to leave your, to leave whatever, don't worry about I want to say the consequences, but don't worry about who's mad. Don't worry about who's upset. Don't worry about it. Because at the end of the day, they don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. At the end of the day, when you leave this earth, you can't be like, well, such and such said, such and such told me, such and such, suggested. No. Because the only thing that is ever going to matter is God, what God tells you to do, what God said. God knows the plans that he has for your life, not anyone else. And I can say that because God knows, he will give you the unction. He will tell you what to do and when to do it before things hit. Because again, had I still been under the ministry that I was under while dealing with this spiritual and demonic warfare, I'm telling y'all, I would have been down for the count. For real, for real. I would have been down for the count being misled. So, it's important to seek God. It's important to hear from God. It's important to make sure that your ears are open, your eyes are attentive, your heart is able to receive the things that God has for you. God only. Man will lead you astray every time. Man will lead you astray every time. And I also, even in this, there's another situation where, everyone that leads you astray, because like I said before, God is the only one that knows the plans that he has for your life. So when you are getting advice from anyone who again is not God and does not know the plans that are for your life, but they are misleading you away from the things that God has told you to do or the things that you know in your heart to be right, that is blood required on their hands. Because you are being misled. So it is very important to hear God for yourself. It is very important to hear God for yourself, because people mislead you. People will give you counsel from their own experiences, their own unhealed traumas. They will give you guidance from the things that have happened to them, their own feelings and emotions, that you can't cancel off of that. So be very mindful of the people that you listen to. I think I did a video on that before as well. Be careful of the people, the guidance and the counsel that you get, because everybody is not advising you with the best interest. Everybody is not advising you from the heart of God. But that is a real question that you guys can, in your own time, when you're taking time to pray and all of that time and all of that, think about the times that you've been loyal to people instead of God, and think about where that has gotten you. Some of the battles that we do face that we don't see the victory on sometimes can come because we chose a different route than what God was telling us to. So make sure that you are constantly in the face of God, that you are constantly hearing from God about your next move. How many times have we been loyal to people instead of being loyal to God? That's a real question. I love you. Be blessed.